With this workflow, you'll be able to use Slack in order to be able to create long form social media posts or just long form posts in general that you might be able to use for maybe an email campaign. Simply tell Slack the story that you want. It's going to present it to you in a way that'll tell you the moral, the call to action, the hook, all that stuff. And then you get to approve it. And then it'll go ahead and write the long form post. Nice long post that discusses everything that you want it to. Nice, quick, easy beats that'll really engage your audience and create a lot of engagement for you and your social media posts. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how this thing actually works. All right, so we're gonna come over to Slack. I got my Slack bot here. I'm gonna say, hey there, I need a long form post. It needs to be about how, when you're creating content, you need to really be able to make your content that's not just super hyper focused on your exact customer avatar, but also a little bit wider. That way it's able to catch people who may be on the periphery, who are looking in, who aren't necessarily considering themselves your clients yet, but who kind of want to be. If you can make your content in that way, you're able to grow and grow your social media footprint. All right, so we got a nice little post there. See, I'm able to just say a quick little story, a quick little thought that I have. I don't have to think too hard about it. We're gonna send that into the bot. What it's gonna do, it's gonna come through, it's gonna see that I used audio, it's gonna go through the audio processing. It's then gonna come over and it's gonna generate kind of an outline of what we are presenting for my social media post here. It's going to then send it back to me via Slack, as well as save that information in its memory so that when I chat with it again, either to update what it's presented to me or to tell it to go ahead and post, that it knows what we're talking about. So if I come back over to Slack, we've got a response. My bot says the delicate dance of content creation. All right, we got a topic, crafting content that's laser focused on your ideal customer, yet open enough to attract the curious onlooker. That's my topic. Background, understanding that a strictly narrow audience narrows your reach, while a slightly broader scope brings in the peripheral prospects. That's true. Story is the art of weaving content that speaks directly to your core, but sprinkles in elements that lure those who aren't quite your clients yet. This approach grows your social media presence by capturing those almost there viewers. That was the story I told. My moral is grow your footprint by embracing the edges, the folks who want to be inside your circle, even if they don't know it yet. And the call to action, develop content strategies that balance precision with expansion, watch your social media influence flourish, right? So that's pretty much it. If I had actually had a real story of a client I was gonna tell, I could have told that and it would then have presented that and put it into a form that we can use for content. All right, so no more having to go, oh man, what am I gonna write about this client? We had this client do this great thing, but I don't know what to say. Just tell it what the client was able to accomplish, say a little bit about what you did. It'll present to you your topic, your background, your story, the moral of the story, as well as the call to action. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the call to action here in a minute. But if it looks good, you just say, yes, looks good, go ahead and proceed, or something like that. And I can send text, I don't have to send just audio. So in just a second, it's gonna go ahead and it's gonna process it. It's gonna write out my long form post and we'll see what it does. I'll admit what I input, probably not the best story, but we're doing this just as an example. Okay, so here's my post, all right? This is what it thinks I should be posting. Here's the thing about creating content. If you only speak to the person already standing right in front of you, you're missing out. Sure, zeroing in on your ideal customer feels safe, it's comfortable, it's tidy. But the magic happens when you widen the lens just a bit. Imagine reaching not just the core fans, but those curious souls lurking on the edges, not quite sure if they belong yet. They're watching, listening, waiting. When your content whispers to them just enough, you invite them closer. You become more than a brand in their feed. You become a possibility. That's how your social media footprint grows, by embracing the edges of your audience, not just the center. It's about crafting messages that feel personal, yet inclusive, focused, yet welcoming. If you want to see your influence flourish, start thinking about the avatar in your head. Look around the corner and say hello to the maybes and almosts. They're your next loyal fans. Curious how to strike that balance? Let's dive in together. Now, that call to action is interesting because I think for this version, because I have a version for myself. I always make these things for myself first, and then I kind of adapt it for you guys. The call to action seemed a little weak, so I want to double check really quick in here that we have a call to action. So I do have in here that it's supposed to be including a link. I actually have my link in here. You want to include your own link. But so it's supposed to have a stronger call to action. I'm not sure why it didn't. We will see in a minute. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring up what ran. We got our 2 executions. We're going to see how it did it in both. Let's go ahead and copy this over. All right, so here we go. This is our workflow. And the first path, the first time I did it, I did an audio message, right? So we have a Slack trigger. We have my bot set up. And if you don't yet have a Slack bot, I'll have a link in the description below on how to use Slack bot. I prefer Slack bots. I've seen people use Telegram. I actually started way back when with Telegram. I didn't like it because it wasn't able to do threaded conversations. Everything was just in one big long conversation. Sure, I could have other bots, but that was kind of a pain. But with Slack, I'm able to have each conversation that I want to have with the bot in its own separate little discussion, and nothing ever, I don't have to worry about it like cross-pollinating with anything. Anyway, what we're going to do is trigger on any event. We're going to be watching the channel. In this case, is my bot channel, and we're going to ignore the bot itself. And if you don't ignore the bot, when the bot responds to you, it's going to trigger this trigger again, and it's going to just respond to itself over and over again. It's really kind of scary. It eats up your tokens. You got to turn off the whole bot. But we're going to do that. We run it through this code node here. This code node, what it's really doing, it's processing out any files that you might have. You don't have to worry about files for this. This introduction here, this whole section all the way over to landmark, everything on the screen, is what I call my standard introduction for my Roger 3.0 system. It's my executive assistant system that I use. So every tool that I build on this framework right here. So I'm just giving you that framework. And so it has the ability to process files. You probably won't process files for this particular workflow unless you want to add in some extra text extraction nodes in here after the landmark node in order to be able to see what the files were you attached. So just be aware of that. But this code node, what it's able to do is it's able to extract out those file URLs, but specifically for our purposes, what it's doing is identifying the session ID of the conversation that we're having with our AI agent. So if your first message in a Slack thread is coming through, it's not going to have a thread timestamp because Slack doesn't give you a thread timestamp for your very first message. So if I came down here and I looked through, there's just no thread _TS anywhere. It just doesn't exist. And so in order to be able to have anything processed further, I have to give it a session ID. And so we do that by giving it the user ID of the person who's sending the message to the bot, and we include the word top. And if it's a further conversation, meaning it's any other message in the thread, we then do the session ID as the user ID : and then that thread timestamp that we would otherwise be getting. But because this is the first message, it's going to be top, and then we're just going to move forward from there. We then have an if node that's determining whether or not an audio file exists, and that code node is going to determine that. It's going to see if there's a audio file. If it does, it's then going to come up this branch up here where it's then going to process your audio file. If it doesn't, it's just a text file, it'll come down through this path down here. So we just have a switch. The switch is looking for audio files. It's looking for if there's any extra text that was attached to it, because you can do an audio and send text as well in Slack. It's really cool. Sometimes I'll record a message and then I'm like, oh man, I forgot to say something. And I just type it out really quick. And then the bot gets all of the context by doing it that way. And so if it's audio, it'll come through this HTTP node here. What we're doing is we're just going to download it using this get method, using the private URL download or the URL private download from Slack. You have to make sure that you set up your Slack credentials in here. Again, I discuss all that in the video in the link below. And what we're doing is we are getting a responsive format of a file, and output is binary. So here we see this is the file that we are downloading, and it's an audio file. It's actually downloading it as an MP4, interestingly, even though it's an M4A. It's supposed to be an M4A. There it is. File type is M4A. And it's coming out as an MP4. So I don't know, it is what it is. Either way, that gets thrown into this OpenAI node. You want to connect your OpenAI credentials. I have a link for that in the description below. And then our resource is audio, operation is transcriber recording, and our input is binary because binary is what we have over here. It's going to output text, and that's going to be what we told the bot. All right, and if you send text in, it goes down this path. It's just looking to make sure that you have text. Right here, this one is just making sure that JSON, initial processing .item.json.text is not empty. If not, it'll come up here to this path. And then depending on what you send, either audio or text or both, it merges it all together, it appends it together. We have a code node that combines all of that together, both sets of text that come in, and then it just joins them together into one blob that then gets passed forward. All right, and if you have other files, they get processed here. I have another video on how the full Roger 3.0 standard intro works, and it's part of like all the bots that I make. So I'll have other discussions for that in other videos. For this one, we really only need to worry about this path right here. Either way, we move forward, we merge it all together so that it gets appended together. It gets combined together in another code node. It's just putting it all in one place. Like, I don't read code. ChatGPT wrote this for me. And then we set it in an edit field node where we map out the text, map out the user ID, the timestamp of what came in. If there is a thread timestamp, it finds that, and here we see it's null because there was no value at all. We mapped our session ID, which includes our user ID and the word top. And then if you attach any files, it also maps out the message, the timestamp that the files were uploaded in the first place, and it logs that for you as well here. All right. We then go through two branches. First branch just passes everything forward over to this merge node, and then the second branch comes down here to this if node. And what it's doing is it's looking for whether our session ID contains the word top. And again, if it was the first message in the channel to create a thread, then it would contain the word top. And so it's going to bypass this Postgres node down here, and it's going to just pass it forward to this code node. It's going to just log everything. And then there's just basically no data to get passed through. It just kind of passes it through because there's no memory to pull. If you were pulling memory, I can show you that here on this other execution, because this is the second execution that we did, which would have been part of the thread. You'll see it does come down here, and that's because the session ID does not contain the word top now. It does contain that thread timestamp. It'll come down to your Postgres node. And your Postgres node is logging, we're logging all of our conversation with the bot at the end of each path that we're going down. So on our first branch, we actually came down this path, and the second path, it's going to come down here. And so it's going to log your human message, it's going to log in your bot message, and I'll explain all that here in a minute. Just understand that all of your conversation with the agent is being captured. It's then going to be pulled out of your Postgres table in this node so that the agent has that conversational history. So it's going to pull everything based on the session ID, and the session ID is based on this structure right here, the user colon thread timestamp. All right, so it's going to find that in your table. It's going to pull out all of the items based on that session ID, and it's going to pass it through this code node. And this code node, like I said, if it's the first pass through, there's not much to pull out because there's no conversational history. But if there is conversational history found in your Postgres table, it's going to actually grab it all. It's going to put it into chronological order, and it's then going to label it so that the agent knows who says what. So you're going to have message 1 is the human message, message 2 is the bot message, and my bot's called Roger, so we'll update that here in a second as we're going through. But then it also finds any additional bits of information that might have been passed through. In fact, I need to change my time tracker. I didn't change that variable when I made this for you guys, so I'll change that here in a second as well. But if you had any files timestamped that were passed through, it's going to log those. If you had any, if this was part of another bot that I give out, the Twitter posting bot or the Facebook posting bot or any of that, it's going to capture the details that it needs in order to be able to post your images. And so just in case you aren't aware of how I build my bots, I build all my bots to try to have a single point of contact, which is my Slack bot. And so this is my standard intro for all of those bots. And so I just hook up all of my bots to this standard intro. And that's why it's so versatile. I just make sure that this code node is capturing everything I need. It passes it forward to this merge node, which just kind of combines everything based on our session ID number. And our session ID number would be either top on our first pass or the one that has the thread timestamp. It then logs it all here in this edit field node. We just capture it. So the current user message thing that we're asking it to do, the user ID, the timestamp that we're sending our message in, our session ID, as well as our full conversation history we've had with the bot. By logging it all here, it allows me to attach pretty much whatever tool I want to this standard intro, and then I can build off of this and create an agentic system. And so this is kind of just one of the tools that I have that I'm giving to you guys. So once it's all logged here, let me go back. We'll save this. We're going to go back to my first execution so we can see what happened. So we're going to pass all of our information from this landmark node into this AI agent. And what it's doing is it's creating our kind of initial output that tells us our structure. So our structure is the topic, the background, the story, the moral of the story, the call to action, as well as whether we've given approval to this structure to go ahead and create the post. I like not just relying on the AI to just go off and make something on the first pass. I like to see what it comes up with first and then approve it. Like I treat this like a real business because this is an employee of mine. This is the world's smartest intern. It's really good at writing, but sometimes it messes up. So I want to make sure that I'm giving it that oversight. And so we're passing in our previous conversations from our landmark node, as well as our current user message, the thing we're asking the bot to do right now. We run it through this system prompt here. It's a world-class social media story deconstructor and approval tracker trained to extract the essential structure of compelling long-form posts for personal branding and community growth. It has two jobs. The first is to extract a structured outline, and the second is to evaluate whether we're giving approval to the outline in order to be able to move forward. And so I give it these 6 topics here that it has to find: topic, background, story, moral, call to action, and approval. And approval is only set to yes if I'm approving the outline in my current message that I'm sending, which is why I give it the current user message and the previous conversation history. That way it sees both, as well as the outline has to be present in full in the previous conversation history. Otherwise, approval will be sent to no. It's going to go down the drafting path. All right, we give it a chain of thought on how to understand all this. It reads it, it understands the basics, it breaks it down, it analyzes the text for any extra clues, especially when it comes to approval. So if we say yes, looks good, go ahead, proceed, stuff like that. It makes sure that it validates that all 5 components of our story are there, and then it outputs everything as a JSON object and nothing else. And so we give it this outline here of what the JSON object should look like. We tell it some things not to do, so no outputting raw text. It has to be a JSON structure. It has to include all 6 of our output fields. Nothing is allowed to be undefined if it's approved, or should I say approval is not allowed to be undefined. It can only be yes or no. And we do not set approval to yes unless our current messaging contains that approval signal, and we have the structure in the previous conversation history, and it's there. It has to always be there. So here's an example. We give it our story, and it gives us an example of our outline plus a no approval. And then we say, hey, can you try pulling out a better moral? This one doesn't fit. And then it just said undefined for all of them and no, because there's nothing here for it to find, right? So then it's going to output, and I guess we do have a structured output. So just the same thing we just saw: topic, background, story, moral, call to action, and approval. It's going to output all of that. And it's then going to pass it through this if node here. This if node is looking for the json.output.approval, because this AI agent here has got output, so we have to make sure that it's .output.approval, and is equal to no. If it's no, meaning no approval, it'll go up this branch up here, which is our drafting branch, and I'll zoom in some for you. All right, and so we come into this AI agent here, and we're going to again give it our current user input, the thing that we're asking it to do, our previous conversation history, as well as our topic, our background, our story, our moral, and our call to action. And then we run it through this system prompt here, which is, it's a world-class copywriting liaison who delivers outline summaries to clients with panache, poise, and a dash of wit. All right, so what it's going to do is it's going to give us that outline, but it's going to frame it as if it was a person rather than just, here it is. Like, I don't like my bots being robots. I prefer them to act a little bit human. It spices up life a little bit. So it's going to take that input. It's going to format it with a short stylized monologue. It's going to be charming commentary up front. It's going to give us a clean, neat list of our labeled fields, and never truly serious and very impactful. So it's then going to end with a line to have us confirm. So if this all looks good, let me know, and I'll go ahead and move on it. That way you have an understanding of what your next step is. We give it a chain of thought, interpret each of these fields, style it with commentary, and then format each of them, and give additional commentary if there's something missing. So if something's missing, it'll say, hey, it looks like you forgot the moral. It happens to the best of us, right? Like a nice little joke. And invite approval in classic fashion. So if it all sounds swell, just say the word. And never output anything in no JSON, no raw data. I want this as a statement with bullets if I can. Never omit a field, even if it's undefined, and never ask any questions or request clarification. All it's supposed to do is say, here's what you have. Is this approved to move forward? Or if there's something missing, it'll let you know that it's missing. All right, so we give it an example of input, and an output. All right, so then that's going to then send it to us back via Slack. So we give it to the bot. Our resource is message, operation is send. We're going to send it to a channel, and it's going to be our bot channel. Our output is going to, our message itself is going to be the output from the prior agent. So just the output there. And then we make sure that we send it as a reply to a message using a timestamp from our landmark node. And that'll make sure that this becomes part of our thread. And once it's part of our thread, we then are generated, I guess I'll open this back up. We're then generated a thread timestamp here that we're then able to use moving forward to create our session IDs, which we do here in Postgres. So we're going to create our session ID with our user ID, colon, and then that thread timestamp. And then we're going to pass the information. I guess, we have to make sure you set up your Postgres credentials. I'll have a video in the link below or description below on how to set up Postgres. But our operation is insert, my schema is public. And you pick your table that you have for your conversations with your bot. And then our message, I have type is human. That way it knows in order to set up the conversational history, which one's human. I have type is human. And we send our data. The content is the content of the message. And that we're pulling from our landmark node, which is our user current input. And then I have all these dot replaces in order to strip out any extra offending marks that might break the Postgres node. And then we also have a time added, which is just set to now. And so that'll give us a timestamp for this very moment. And then that way it puts everything into chronological order when we pull it back out. And then we have another Postgres node. The Postgres node, same thing. It's operation insert, schema public, chat table. Our session ID is the same thing. It's our user ID, colon, and then the thread timestamp from our Slack node. And then our message is type bot. I changed that. I had a quick edit. I changed that from RogerBot to bot for you. And then our content is the message that got sent to us via Slack. So it's .message.text. That's from Slack. And then we have those dot replaces in order to pull out any extra offending marks that might break the Postgres. Our time added is now. And then I also log who this is responding to. So later, if you need to be able to figure out what the bot has been saying to whom, you'll be able to build a system that's able to track based on user IDs. And then I updated the previous conversation chain as well to long form post. You don't necessarily have to worry about previous conversation chain in this bot, but if you're going to build out bots further using kind of the Roger 3.0 system that I have available in my advanced community, the previous conversation chain will allow the bot to know which tool you're in conversation with so that it always goes to the right place. And that gets all sent into Postgres. And then when I then have my next message to the bot over here, I'll save that, then come back to this, open this, and everything will be the same. It comes through, it pulls out the message. This agent is going to find our previous conversation that we had our structured output in, and it's going to see that I'm giving it approval. And that approval will then give us this approval yes here, then comes down through the if node. It's not no, so it's going to come down here where we come to this AI agent. Now, this AI agent, we're passing in our current message, our previous conversation. I guess I have to erase that there because that's not important. As well as our topic, our background, our story, our moral, and our call to action just as before. And then this agent, what it's doing is it's going to write a long form post in the style or spirit of Dan Kennedy. He's one of my favorite copywriters. And so we just say, hey, this is how you're going to write your post. It's going to write very, very short paragraphs, 1 to 3 sentences each at most. It's going to break the lines up for rhythm and impact, but never at the expense of coherence. So if I come back over here and we see our post, sure, zeroing in on your ideal client feels safe. It's comfortable. It's tidy. They're really, really tight little sentences, and nothing more than like 3 on one line. But that's in order to be able to create that kind of visual effect, that nice little pacing that people will be able to read it. Nice short little stuff that gets the ideas in quick. Not that tool. That's a different tool. And then we have our instructions. So breaks it up. Each line or paragraph should build on the previous one. It's think in terms of sequential influence. How do we tell this story bit by bit? We make sure that it does it in markdown formatting. So it's going to do bolding. It's going to do italics. Whether that actually will post to social media is a different question, but we do have it there, as well as we have an ahref reference, which means it's going to take any links that you give it and it's going to make them hyperlink. They'll be clickable. And it ends with a call to action that feels natural. You'll want to build in your own specific call to action. So make sure you put your link in here. If we come down to the bottom, I have it in an example. I have my link in an example, but you're going to want to give it some instruction on where you want to send people so that that actually works for you. We have chain of thought, so it needs to understand what it's doing, it needs to build the narrative flow, it needs to write with tension and resolution, it needs to maintain the pacing, it needs to embed the CTA, so if a URL is present, format it with the ahref, and deliver only the post in Markdown, no extra text or commentary, no writing in fragments, they need to be, unless it creates impact. Okay, so it can do a one-word line, but it has to be like for impact. Never stack too many line breaks without too little meat. Don't make it feel choppy. No overselling. You're a closer, not a circus barker. And don't omit the CTA if it's present. Okay, and so we give it an example of what that should look like. And then we run it through the same process we did before. We have a Slack node that sends it to us, and then two Postgres nodes. The Postgres, this one uploads the human message, and this one uploads the bot message. So if I come back here to my scope identification, this is where you're going to want to make sure that your call to action is fleshed out. I don't know if I have a great place for it. You want to update this in order to, if you have like a standard call to action, if you always want them to go to your website, make sure that this bot knows that so that you don't always have to say it in your message. As it stands, you would have to say it in your message in order for it to be able to put in here, but you can build that into your system prompt. And then I went ahead and I also gave you a couple ideas over here. So you can, if you really wanted, just attach this over here, and now it's going to be able to be posted to LinkedIn. So you'd want to set up your LinkedIn credentials. I'll put a link in the description below on how to set up your LinkedIn credentials. But your resource is post, operation is create, posting as a person, or you can post it as a business. I do have both videos. I guess I'll include both if I can remember to into the description. You pick the person you're responding as, and the text of your post will be that. And then it'll post it directly to LinkedIn just as a long form post. You can set it to post to Facebook, same thing. Set up your meta graph credentials. I'll put a description or a video in the description below on how to set up your meta graph credentials to be able to post to Facebook. Host URL is default. Our post method, request method is post. I'm using version 22. You might be using version 23 or whatever's the newest version. The node we're using is me. The edge is feed, and then our query parameters are message. The thing that's actually being posted is just going to be the output from the AI agent. So all you got to do is grab this over, pull it in, then it's going to post directly to Facebook. And same with Reddit. Although with Reddit, there's an extra step that you're going to have to do. So you would want to set up your Reddit credentials. I'll put a link in the description below on how to set up your Reddit credentials as well. Our resource is post, operation is create. Pick the subreddit you want to post in. I just have it written end-to-end just so it doesn't look errored out. The kind of post is going to be a text post. Our title, now here's where it's different. Reddit requires you to have a title. So either you can hard code in a title, which I don't recommend, or what you can do is you can add a structured output parser to this node right here, the one that writes the post. So you'd turn on require structured output parser, come down here, add this, and then you would add two fields. You add title and then text like that. This does not need to be an array. We can actually just delete all of that and delete the comma. And then that's decent enough. You may want to actually put in the example, but what you'd want to do is for this system prompt, you would need to come in and ask ChatGPT to have it output it as a structured JSON rather than as just a string. So just be aware there is a little bit you might have to do in order to be able to get it to do for Reddit. But I'll go ahead and turn this off. We don't need that. I'm going to delete that. But you need a title and a text for the body of the text, and then it'll post to Reddit for you. And so that is that. This bot will go ahead and take any story that you give it, turn it into a long form post, and then it can optionally post directly to social media on your behalf. So if you want today's workflow, all you got to do is click the link in the description below to go to my free school community. It's available absolutely for free. This, as well as a ton of other workflows. I've got other social media posting bots. I've got lead scrapers. I've got nifty tools for coaches to develop your entire coaching program, and so much more, all available there absolutely for free, as well as a ton of tutorials. Or if you want to join my advanced community, I have even more training on how to be able to build end-to-end tools just like this, on how to be able to monetize your skills. I have all kinds of additional tools, as well as my full Roger 3.0 executive assistant system. I give it away in my advanced community. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video. It really does help get this information out there to those who need it. And as always, I'm Bradford Carlton. Let's automate your success together.